Patch 15 is the first time we've seen the massively buffed hitboxes in the early wipe, and so today I'll be going through all of the early armors so you know what to use and what to aim for in the first couple of weeks. So first off, at level 1, before you get to the flea market, which is still at level 15, you're going to be very limited in what you can buy from the traders. Unless you want to go in literally naked, the cheapest option is the usual class 2 armors, being the Packer, the 6B2 and the module 3M from Ragman, Prapor and Skier respectively. Use these if you have nothing else, but they will stop you getting killed in one shot by shotguns, and with scavs being as deadly as they are, I think it's well worth bringing at least one of these 3. Do remember that almost nobody will pick them up, so typically you'll get them back over and over again in insurance, with maybe the exception of factory, but even then it's quite likely. If I had to buy one of these, it would be the 6B2, because it's literally the cheapest and also a decent camo colour as opposed to something white like the module 3M. The next best thing that you can do in the early wipe for armor is to search every single scav that you kill, looking for class 3 and class 4 armors. Scavs will often be wearing armors like the 6B13, which are really strong early because of the class 4 protection, and it will protect you against many bullets in the first month. If it's an armor with replaceable plates, remember that you can check the class on the plates themselves and also check how damaged they are. Specifically, something like the 6B13, which used to be ceramic and so really bad, is now really good because the 6B33 front plate that goes into it is armor steel and repairs really well. In order to move up from class 2 to class 3 in the stash before getting to the flea market, you'll have to resort to barters, except for Prapor's Korakulon at class 3, which you can purchase in cash after completing Search Mission on Woods, which itself unlocks after completing Debut. Other than this, the 6B23 barter for a propane tank isn't too bad, but just remember that this one doesn't come with a backplate by default, so you're a bit exposed when running away. Don't be tempted to do the Juk 3 press barter from Skier early unless you really have to, because horses are quite expensive on the flea market due to them being a component of the Docks Case barter. On Ragman 1, I probably would stay clear of the Raven barter for the other Korakulon because these are quite hard to find and you do need them for some Ragman quests later on. The MF Untar body armor, whilst not being that great at class 3 and being bright blue, which makes you quite an easy target, you can stick a rig over the top of it, and max energy drinks are relatively common to find in raids, so this is another alternative. 2 new options are from Ref. If you manage to complete Easy Money Part 1, you can barter a Korakulon with him for 8 GP coins or a press for 6 GP coins. Typically, I don't think this is worth it, but it's there if you play a lot of Arena. Once you get to level 15 and open up the flea market, your options suddenly explode. With trader flipping being very active this wipe, i.e. people buying from the traders and selling it straight back on the flea, armors from further up the progression suddenly become available on the flea market because players with access can literally buy them and resell them back down the chain to players that haven't got there yet. Also, because of the way that the armor plate system works now, there are many different ways and combinations of actually buying armor. Lots of the different plate carriers share plate compatibilities, and at class 4 you can either buy the whole thing outright or piece it together from an empty vest and put the plates in afterwards. Some of the ones that I would look out for are the 2 6B13 armors that I mentioned before, as they are both found in raid on scavs, as well as the Flora version being purchasable on Ragman 2 after completing certain quests, which we'll look at in a second. This means that if you're canny, sometimes you will find an armor that has been put on the flea with the armor plates still inside. You can tell from this little marker here, 0 out of 2 or 2 out of 2, whether the plates are in there or not. If you're only just at level 15, you won't have access to these armors yet directly on the traders, and an armor in the middle of the pack on price, which has 2 out of 2 on the armor tag, you could probably be sure that it's a bargain because you didn't have to buy the armor plates separately and can repair them up really well. In this case, the 6B33 plates that fit into the 6B13 are made of steel, which gets nearly back up to full when repaired. The other armors that I like looking out for are those armors that fit the monoclete plates by default, because this is the lightest class 4 plate overall, repairs incredibly, and is top 3 in terms of protection. One of these is the Trooper, but that's usually quite expensive, so the other one that I look out for is the MMAC, which as you can see here is either purchasable without any armor plates or with armor plates inside. Given the price, the ones with plates are often relatively good value, as monocletes are around 40,000 rubles each standalone on the flea. This one here then is 80k just for the plates themselves, and that sets the MMAC rig to about 25k rubles if we work backwards from the flea price, which is great value. In this other clip that I got, somebody basically made a mistake here because they listed it for less than the price of one monoclete plate when it has both in it and also the rig. You can do a linked search on the plates themselves to find out which armors that they go into, but some of these are not as good value as they seem. For example, the Eagle Allied Industries rig. Firstly, these often come with class 3 plates instead because that's the default, but as you can see on this armor, there is no soft protection layer at all and only relies on the plates themselves. The Shellback Banshee is the other one that has monoclete plates inside by default, and so you can often find these here on the Flea as well, all in with both included. It's a touch more expensive than the MMAC on the flea market, but the internal layout of the Banshee is really quite good, and it has 1x3 slots as well, which are relatively unusual and quite hard to find. If you do fancy using some of the 40 rounders early on, then this is the way to do it. If you're struggling for money a little bit but want to eke out a bit of extra performance, you can go looking for the Class 3 plates instead and use those in the back and only use the Class 4 plates at the front. This way your plates go double as far. So last wipe, many players were running either the Cuirassier or the Press with upgraded plates in them, but given these come with Class 3 plates by default, often it doesn't make sense to try to buy them as an empty carrier this time around due to the reselling compressing the values of Class 4. If you do end up with them for whatever reason, just remember that the Cuirassier supports SAPI plates in the front and the back, whereas the Press armor only supports it for the back slot, and the front needs to be one of those triangular plates, ideally the Class 4 6B33, the same one as in the 6B13 armor that we just looked at before. One other choice that can be a useful option on a budget is the 6B515 Ulay Class 4 rig. This is the darker green camo version, not the tan one, which is Class 3. The benefit of the Ulay is you don't have to mess around with the armor plates because they're all inbuilt. It also has neck armor as well with Class 2, which can be good early wipe because it will catch certain bullets from both players and scavs for anything under about 18 penetration. Try to find a full or close to full durability one if you can, but these are normally 60 to 65k at the moment, which is pretty cheap and kind of in line with something like the 6B13, but gives you a rig as well for free. The reason why this is the budget choice over an armor like the 6B13 is that if it doesn't have replaceable plates inside, then you only get one armor layer, whereas the 6B13 has a Class 4 plate and then Class 2 soft armor underneath, which can help to stop bullets that are only just about getting through. I've only mentioned a couple of different options here to give you some ideas that I think are probably the best bang for buck, but prices move around all the time on the Flea and there are so many different armors on the market that you can get access to now, it's worth having a check around, link searching some plates and seeing what fits into what at different prices. Once you get onto the level 2 traders, you can buy Class 4 backplates for the 6B23 armor from Prapor and the Untar vests for cash on Peacekeeper 2 as well, but these are pretty underwhelming compared to what you can get on the Flea. The real game changer comes as a minimum of level 17 on Ragman 2, but you have to complete specific quests to get access to some of these armors that we just talked about a second ago. The fact that they are unlocked on level 2 traders is half of the reason why these are so cheap and some of the best options on the Fleet anyway, because people can resell them. But if you want to get guaranteed access to these things for yourself, then you'll want to start with Audit, which is Ragman's first streets task. This comes straight after completing Only Business and requires you to go to the financial building and pick up a package. Once you've done that, you will unlock the 6B13 armor directly. This will come with a 6B33 plate in the front as well as the Class 4 custom backplate. At 64,000 rubles, this is one of the most cost-effective armors that you can buy, and it could tide you over all the way until you get to Class 5 armor, really. After Audit at level 20, you get another quest called Ballet Lover, where you need to go to the pub to pick up the key, which spawns there guaranteed every raid, go to the Skybridge in the post office building, find the apartment, and survive. This will then unlock the 6B5 Ulay, also for a fairly cheap price of 65,000 rubles. This then gives you two options of Class 4 armor to use on Ragman, which you can rotate back and forth each reset for 4 loadouts, as you get 2 of each armor. Next, one of my favourite armors at level 2 traders is locked behind the database task where you have to pick up the manifests on Interchange. If you complete this one, you get access to the Thor Concealable, and what's special about the Thor is that the soft armor that it comes with is Class 3. This is basically the earliest and cheapest Class 3 soft armor that you can get to in a reliable way, but the unfortunate thing about the Thor itself is that the Class 4 plates that it comes with are extremely heavy and not that good at 4.3 kilograms each. Fortunately, you can take these plates out, sell them on the Flea now, and then buy something else like a monoclete plate, a Kibber Arms Titan, or a New Sphere Tech, which are much lighter. With Class 4 over the top and Class 3 underneath, this will actually make you really tanky to the early and mid-game rounds that you'll be facing in the first couple of weeks, with the only downside being the lack of neck protection, which can let Scav Buckshot and SMG ammo bypass your nice armor. The old favourite, the 6B3TM, is locked even higher up at Database Part 2, but I don't recommend wearing this one if you can help it because the back of the armor is Class 2 and also has no neck. For the arena players out there, Ref at level 2 has the ANA Tactical M2 rig, which is also Class 3 soft armor, so pretty strong, and this costs 15 GP coins, coming with its default plates of the Kibber Arms Titan, which is the most protective Class 4 plate in the game. Now, in terms of helmets, this is pretty tough in early patch 15. The SSH Steel helmet does not support any headsets anymore, so the basic helmet that most people use has practically been removed from play, given you can't hear properly with it on anymore. This pretty much leaves Peacekeeper's bright blue helmet as the last one standing that you can wear ear pro with. Not really a great choice for camo if you're playing stealthily, but at least it's Class 3. Unless you're an arena main and you want to grab the helm from Ref, I'd probably play without one until the flea market, to be honest. At Prep or 2, the Ratnik is a solid choice, but costs a bit too much in my opinion for a class 3. Check out any of the Bastion helmets, the TC2000 series, or the ACH HCs and buy whichever is the cheapest. You'll usually spend about 5 to 10k extra, but class 4 versus class 3 is actually a big deal in helmets, as it's the difference between getting penned with M855 or not. Ragman 2 does have a budget alternative, letting you buy the Flora Ratnik for 2 bleaches, so for low gear raids this usually costs about 25k. The only exception that I make to this on helmets is the Ronin. This doesn't allow you to wear ear protection, but it does have class 3 all over the face. I use this helmet on factory to try to get my stuff done early and not get shot in the face by people doing stir up. It can be a bit expensive at times, but it's how I managed to get the close range bolt action Tarkov shooter done this wipe. So in summary, try to scrounge as many class 4s as you can off scavs early. Once you're at the Flea, check out the quest armors, as these are often the cheapest, i.e. the 6B515 Yule rig, the 6B13 vest, and if you're looking for something more fancy, then try to find a rig like the MMAC or the Banshee with plates already included that's being priced low. You can also go and look for standalone plates like the Monocly or the Newsphere Techs, and if they're pricing under 30k, they're also probably relatively good value. So next up, go and check out my video on the best level 1 weapons to pair these with if you haven't already. Otherwise, as usual, a big shout out to all my patrons, and as always, have fun in your raids.